episode of English with Boss Huang Vlogs. I'm Boss, and today I will be giving you 7 tips, yes, 7 tips to help you improve your English speaking. So in the last episode, we talked about how to improve your listening so that you can understand native speakers and also help yourself process what you are hearing from the world so you will be ready to speak back. So today, we will talk about how to speak back in a conversation. If you haven't seen the last episode, go to the cards above or description below for the previous episode and the English tutorial playlist. So let's dive right into today's main subject of how to improve your English speaking by talking about the first tip, which is learn to speak. To learn to speak. That is the main point for today's video, and we can learn to speak by learning to speak through listening. Learning to speak through listening. You might think that is a no-brainer, and you might be thinking, hey boss, why are you saying this? Everyone knows that we should learn to speak by listening and speaking. Well, that's true, but some people don't put it into practice. A lot of education systems provide the English practicing materials either in book form for you to read, or they have those traditional CDs where you play it and there will be a native speaker giving you listening or reading practices. However, when you're doing this, you aren't able to hear natural or organic conversations. You're only listening to material that is designed for you to excel at school or academical English. And that's why I want to stress this point of learning to speak through listening. Not only listening at the study materials or the CDs that are provided with these study materials, but also listening to other materials that aren't so centered for academical purposes. For example, you can listen to conversations, podcasts, the radio, movies, or TV shows to give you more of an idea of how a natural or organic conversation will sound like. And especially the point of not learning to speak through reading. Many people will try to read the books that they get from school and try to read out the points in the book. However, the disadvantage of this is if you're reading a word that you have never seen or heard before, you will probably guess how to pronounce it according to your experiences with the letters that make up this word. However, different letters and different words may have different pronunciations in different situations. So if you try to guess without enough of a database of words in your head, you might guess wrong, and that may lead you into a rabbit hole of repeated mistakes. A rabbit hole is a situation where you fall deeper and deeper into something, similar to Alice in Wonderland when she fell into the hole and into the wonderland of the story. And so that's why I would recommend you to actually listen to a native speaker speaking and then try to copy them. So not only can you learn about the word, but you will also understand how to properly pronounce it. So that's the point of learning to speak through listening. Moving on to the next point, to avoid pronunciation traps. To avoid pronunciation traps. If you remember from the last tip, I mentioned if you try to guess how to pronounce a word based off of its spelling, you might guess wrong if you don't have enough of a database of words in your head. So, some of the pronunciation traps might be causing these incorrect guesses, and now I'll talk about which kind of pronunciation traps are the most common in your English learning journey. So for the English pronunciation traps, I have a category which is called same spelling doesn't always equal same sound. So under this category, throughout my experience, I kind of categorize them into three smaller subcategories. One of them being the homographs that we talked about in the previous episode, which you can also find in the playlist, in the cards, or in the description. So some examples for homographs are lead and led, tear and tear, minute and minute. These three words are spelled the same but have different pronunciations for different meanings. For me, these were the hardest ones to understand, and if you want to learn more about them, comment below and I will make a more in-depth video regarding homographs, and also their cousins of homophones and homonyms. So the next 2 points are all related to phonological elements of a word, either made up by different letters or one single letter. The first example is made up by a set of letters, which is O-U-G-H. Can you think of a word including the letters O-U-G-H? You can try to pause the video and think of a word if you want to. If you thought of one, comment below, and now I will give you some examples. C-O-U-G-H. The cough is spelled C-O-U-G-H and read cough. Now the next word I have on my list is R-O-U-G-H. Can you guess how it's read? If you try to guess the cough sound, the behind of O-U-G-H is pronounced off, and you said rough, you would be incorrect. R-O-U-G-H is read rough. Rough does not rhyme with cough, neither does it rhyme with bow, which is B-O-U-G-H. Weird, isn't it? Three words with the same ending of four exact same letters, but none of them are rhyming so far. We have two more words that end with O-U-G-H, which are spelled T-H-R-O-U-G-H and T-H-O-U-G-H. Would you like to try and guess how they're pronounced? Okay, here we go. For T-H-R-O-U-G-H, it's pronounced through, through. For T-H-O-U-G-H, it's pronounced though, though. So, cough, rough, bow, through, and though, none of them rhyme with each other, but they all end in O-U-G-H. So that's the example for the O-U-G-H group for the 5 different pronunciations. Throughout my learning experience, I categorized the groups of different letters, the phonological elements of these words, into 2 different groups, regular and irregular. The group of regular are when groups of letters are grouped together, and these groups always sound the same. For irregular groups, of course, it's the opposite, when a group of letters are grouped together, but these group of letters may not always sound the same or always sound different, depending on what word they are in. So for example, O-U-G-H, the example I just gave you guys, is part of the irregular group. Now the first example that pops into mind for the regular group, for me, was T-I-O-N and S-I-O-N. This group of letters in the vast majority of words are pronounced a shin sound, as in ignition, cognition, relaxation, and solution. So these 4 examples all end in T-I-O-N, and they are all pronounced with a shin sound. So for me, I would categorize that into my regular category. So that's kind of the point for different groups of letters. For the third part of the same spelling, not always meaning the same sound, is for single letters. So according to the IPA, which is the International Phonetic Alphabet, it states that some words have the same pronunciation for different contexts, but some letters have different pronunciations according to different situations. I will give you guys an example today using the letter U. And if you would like to learn more about when different letters are read differently, please comment below. So the letter U can be pronounced as the following three sounds. The first one is U, just like how it's spelled U. The second one is an sound, an sound. The third one is an sound, kind of like O. So for the examples of these different pronunciations in words individually, for U, we have U as in furious, furious. For the second pronunciation of the sound, we have judge, judge. For the third pronunciation of the sound, we have put, put. So as you can see, those three words all have a U in it, but they're all pronounced somewhat different. Would you like to know why they are pronounced different and if they mean different things? Comment below. And I'm sure this may be a lot for newcomers or beginning learners because there is a lot to remember regarding the different groups of letters, the different single letters, the phonetics of English, the different alphabets. It is very confusing, I am sure. So if you're not following, that is completely understandable, and don't give yourself too much pressure if you can't remember it early on. Just make sure to read more and listen more and speak more so that you get used to these irregular principles of the English language. And aside from using it more, you should definitely also subscribe and stay tuned to my channel because I will be making future videos going in depth telling you how to differentiate between these different subjects. So if you have one certain subject you want to prioritize in your learning process, comment below. So those are the three examples for same spelling, not always, meaning same pronunciation, for homographs, different groups of letters, and single letters. Moving on to the next part, we also have word stress. Word stress. This is another one of the pronunciation traps I've met in my English learning journey. And for the word stress, I found that there are two major problems. So the first problem is where when you stress the word in different syllables, it will become a different word entirely, which is similar to homographs. Basically, when words have the same spelling, but if you stress a different part of it, it becomes a different meaning. Now, the second part is when you stress a word incorrectly, it just becomes the wrong pronunciation in general. There's no word that is supposed to be pronounced like that, and if you're talking to a native speaker, they might be able to understand what you're saying. But if you're talking to someone that's also starting out in English, they might not understand what you're saying, and you guys might confuse each other by doing so. So for the first instance where you stress different parts of a word and it becomes two different meanings, I have two words which are spelled the same as an example for you. Now I will give you the definitions of these two words and you can try to guess which word it is. The first definition is to give a report on something or to show something to people. To give a report on something or to show something to people. The second definition can either be the here and now, the current time, or something you give to people to open and something a lot of people like to receive during Christmas. Did you guess which word I was talking about? If so, please comment below, and whether or not you did, let me tell you the answer. The first definition was present. Present. To present an idea, a new product, or to present a business pitch. Present. P-R-E-S-E-N-T. The second definition is present. Present. The present time, to wrap a present, or to give someone a present during Christmas. Also spelled P-R-E-S-E-N-T. You may notice they're spelled the same, but why do they sound different? That is because we are stressing different syllables of the word. Present is a two-syllable word consisting of the two syllables pre and sent. When you combine the two syllables, it becomes present. Present stresses the second syllable of zent, so it becomes present. If you stress the first syllable of pre, it becomes present. Present. So present is to show something to other people, and present is the current time or something you give to other people. So that's the first instance of when you stress a word differently, it has different definitions. Also, a fun fact is, generally speaking, again, there are exceptions in this language, but generally speaking, verbs, nouns, adjectives, and adverbs all have the syllable that they are usually stressed at. If you want to know which form is stressed at which syllable, please comment below for a future video regarding stressing words. Now let's move on to the second instance where if you stress a word incorrectly, it will sound weird or alien to other people. For this demonstration, I have the word shown next to me here. Do you know how to pronounce it or where to stress it? So this word has 4 syllables. 4 syllables. It is made up of the 4 syllables democracy. Democracy. These 4 different syllables will make up this word. How do we pronounce this word properly? I will give examples where we stress all 4 different syllables, and I will invite you to take a guess which pronunciation is the correct one. So if we're stressing the first syllable, we get democracy, democracy. If we stress the second syllable, we get democracy, democracy. If we stress the third syllable, we get democracy, democracy. If we stress the fourth syllable, we get democracy, democracy. So these 4 pronunciations sound very different from each other, and if you've heard this word before, chances are you will know the right answer. So did you take a guess? If so, comment below. If not, let's move on. So the correct answer for this word is the second pronunciation where we stress the second syllable, which pronounces it as democracy, democracy. So those are the 2 instances I have as examples where if you stress the word incorrectly, it may sound weird or even incorrect, or it may get you less points if you're taking a test. So you definitely want to take care when you are learning how to pronounce a word. And that is also why it is so important that I recommend you to listen and repeat as opposed to reading and guessing the pronunciations. Because if you guess, you might get the wrong stress words and you might pronounce them wrongly when you do need to use them one day. And so I would recommend you listen and watch more of whatever you like to listen or watch, and also to watch more of my videos because I will make more practice videos for you to follow along in the future. So if there's anything you would like to learn or you want to practice earlier, please comment below so I can make videos according to my viewers' needs. I hope that we can learn English together in the coming days, and let's move on to the next tip. So the third point for today is to automate grammar. To automate grammar. If you are wondering what does automate mean, well, automate is to make something automatic. Automatic is when something is done without anyone controlling it or without thinking about it. So if you've heard of the phrase autopilot, autopilot, it is made up of two words, automatic and pilot. To pilot is to control, generally speaking, a vehicle. So when we talk about autopilot, it means the vehicle is either controlling itself or we are controlling it without thinking about it. And so that's why some people will say when they drive so much on the same road when going to work, sometimes they will go into autopilot, which is when they drive their car or they do something that they do so much that they don't even need to think about it. And that's what we're trying to do in point 3 of Automate Grammar. We are trying to get our brains used to the process of learning about grammar to the point where we can autopilot the process without having to think about it too much. So for this tip, we will try to repeat the action of repeating something and mixing it up. To mix it up means to change something, to mix the different elements of whatever it is we are talking about. So for this tip, I want you guys to go and look for a short sentence in any sort of media. It can be a movie, novel, or book, whatever you like. Look for a short sentence and follow along as I do. The example sentence I will use today is I love pizza. I love pizza. I'm sure many people do, and if you don't, comment below and let's start a food war. Okay, so what do I mean by mixing it up? So we have the basic phrase of I love pizza. I want to mix this up by adding in different words or replacing existing words in the basic sentence. For example, if I were to add something new, I could say, I love pepperoni pizza, or I love seafood pizza, or I would love pizza if people would stop putting pineapple in it. Do you like your pizza with pineapple? Comment below. So those are some of the examples of adding new words into the basic sentence. And for replacing different words of the sentence, we can do I like pizza. I enjoy pizza. I want a pizza this afternoon. She likes eating pizza. These are all different ways you can use to try and mix up the different sentences, and by doing so, you can explore different options that you can use when you are trying to make up a sentence during conversation. And by doing so, you can increase your responses from the generic, how are you, I'm fine, to how are you, I've been fine, and yourself? Or, how are you, I've been fine, I did something today, and what about you? So by doing so, not only are you extending your database of words in your head, you're also training yourself to respond to different situations. This also adds to your collocations and different idioms and different sentences and expressions, which will be mentioned in the later tip today. So if you haven't done this exercise yet, I would recommend you to pause this video, go and look for a sentence, try mixing it up, and comment below the different extensions that you came up with. So this is the tip of repeating it and mixing it up to add your own creativity into different sentences. Moving on to the next tip, we will talk about how to increase your fluency. How to increase your fluency. So for how to increase your fluency, the first subcategory we have is to focus on chunks. To focus on chunks. We have 3 different examples of chunks, which are collocations when words are put together, oftentimes in conversation or text. And the second one is idiomatic expressions, where a sentence doesn't mean what the individual words mean. And the last one are fillers, what we put in sentences to make it more smooth. So for the collocations, as I said, are words that are usually put together, like shopping spree, weekly shopping, weekly shopping. These are all collocations for the word shopping. For idiomatic expressions are where sentences don't mean what the individual words in this sentence mean. The first idiomatic expression I personally heard was break a leg. Break a leg. As a child, one of my mentors told me to break a leg when I was participating in a contest. I was very surprised and even slightly worried because I thought that mentor wanted me to go on stage and kick the opponent's leg in to break their leg literally. However, that is not the case. To break a leg means to give someone good luck or to tell them to do well on stage or in a certain situation. The expression came from Elizabethan times, where when someone was performing and the audience thought they were performing well, they would take their chairs and bang it on their legs. So if they bang it very, very hard, the leg of the chair will break. And so when they say break a leg, they mean perform so well that the audience will break the legs of their chairs. And that's how it evolved to nowadays speaking. When we say break a leg, we mean good luck, or I hope you do well on stage, and not to literally break someone's leg. Another example for idiomatic expressions is hard to swallow. Hard to swallow. It doesn't mean that you're actually trying to swallow something. It uses a metaphor, and what we're trying to swallow is a piece of information or knowledge. So when we're saying it's hard to swallow, we are saying that it's hard for our brain to swallow or process, which means it may be too much information or too difficult, or it can just be hard to understand. So maybe something very serious happened today and you just got news of it. You can tell the other person it's very hard to swallow and maybe you need some time. So those are the two examples of idiomatic expressions that I have. And lastly, for fillers. Fillers are words or sentences we put in day-to-day speech to tell the other person that I'm currently thinking, or to fill in the blank spaces when we're talking. If you're someone that uses filler words a lot, but you want to upgrade your filler game and try to sound more professional, you can try using the filler sentences, such as, at the end of the day, in conclusion, and so therefore, you know what I mean? You know? Are you following? These sentences can be used to replace filler words, and not only do they fill a bigger gap because they take longer to speak, they also make you sound slightly more professional as opposed to using basic single word fillers like so, and basically. Especially if you're someone that uses fillers a lot, you want to switch them up as often as you can so that you're not constantly umming or saying basically or saying so like, etc., etc. So that's the point of focusing on chunks. We have collocations, idiomatic expressions, and filler sentences. Now moving on to the next tip is how to gain confidence. How to gain confidence. Confidence is a very big element and key to success of anything. Low self-esteem or low confidence is one of the biggest enemies of self-progression. how do we counter low self-esteem or low confidence can be a very key element to success. So below are 3 of my tips that I personally used to give myself a confidence boost and to be more willing to step out there and to show my abilities and my English skills. So the first one is to push your comfort zone. This is very important, and it can be used in any criteria. To stay in your comfort zone is to do something you are used to and you feel comfortable doing. For example, you might be reading one book every day. You might be watching an English tutorial podcast. You might be watching Boss Huang Vlogs English every day or every week. The examples I've given so far can all be done in the comfort of your own house. You don't have to face any people in real time. Now, how can you push your comfort zone and how will that help you? You can push your comfort zone by going online to forums where you can chat with people through text in real time. You can also go on language learning platforms to voice call or even video call someone and practice your English speaking. If we're talking about in-person practices, you can go to somewhere that has English-speaking people in your community. For example, a university or an international hotspot in your hometown. You can also try to host an English book club or English get-together for other people that want to learn English near you. Or you can also try to enroll in linguistic courses in your local university or different linguistic education centers. By doing so, not only will you be challenging yourself and pushing yourself to your limits, you will also be able to get face-to-face with other English speakers, and then that takes us to the second point of getting feedback. By doing real-time conversations or interactions with other people, you can get instant feedback on what you are doing. However, please remember that criticism will always be faced no matter where you are or how good you are. It is not because you are not good enough. It may be because they are giving you advice or they are just jerks in general. Just make sure to remember that you are doing your best and remember the good feedback or constructive criticism that other people give you. For example, constructive criticism means something that is critical but still gives you a constructive idea or an action or a practice that you can do to change this criticism. For example, if someone was to say that my English pronunciation wasn't good enough, but they proposed to help me practice every day, or they gave me different tools to help me enhance my pronunciation, then it is constructive feedback. If we're just talking criticism, it may be someone constantly picking on you, saying that your pronunciation sucks. Now that is criticism without any feedback. Those are the types of criticism that we should and can just ignore. Because if we meddle on these negative thoughts, it will prevent us from progressing, and we will have a hard time learning our languages. So, when you get these negative feedback, just throw it out the window and keep the good feedback and the positive feedback with you so that you have that power to move on. Another point is that previously we mentioned about dopamine intake and how that affects our willingness to continue for this goal. By going face-to-face and in person, you will get more positive feedback, and this will give you more dopamine. More dopamine equals more motivation. And so if you reach different milestones and get better feedback in person, that will give you a higher level of motivation to pursue your goals. Speaking of pursuing your goals, you should set milestones. Milestones are markings where you get to a certain proficiency or certain goals that you have set for yourself and you celebrate in a certain way. As I previously mentioned, I would treat myself to a meal every time I reached a new milestone, and that's why I look like what I am right now. So, you want to give yourself different milestones and reward yourself with whatever you like the most. But make sure not to overdo it and make it so that every milestone is refreshing and gives you that sense of achievement. You can always get a friend to help you with this if you find yourself having difficulties managing where the milestones should be. By doing so, you will realize yourself getting more and more confidence because you're willing to step out there and try something new. When you realize you can do this something new, you will find that it is easy peasy. And then you will be able to get even bigger goals, and once you complete them, you will get even more confidence. But do remember not to become overconfident so that you become egotastic or even cocky. However, if you find it hard to achieve the goals that you have set for yourself, don't be sad and don't give up. Try to make your goals smaller so that you can have an easier time achieving them, so that you have enough dopamine and enough achievements to continue on. Always remember that it is not necessarily your fault if you cannot achieve your goals. We also need to take into account your environments, your friends and family, what your goal is, and what is stopping you from achieving those goals. So whatever you do, I'm sure you're doing your best to achieve your goals, and I wish you luck on your path of achieving these goals. If you have a certain goal you want to achieve in your mind, but don't have the tools or the right knowledge to do so, please comment below, and I might just be able to help you with a future video. So that's the point of how to gain confidence through these 3 different methods: to push your comfort zone, to get feedback, and to set milestones. For the last tip of today, we have shadowing and recording yourself. Shadowing and recording yourself. So if you understand what a shadow is, basically, if we have a light, shine it on an object, it will have an absence of light behind this object. The absence of light behind this object is called a shadow. And the interesting point of a shadow is whatever the object does, the shadow will follow it completely and instantaneously. So if you can imagine what shadowing means as a noun form, you can take some time to take a guess. And if you guessed we want to copy something like a shadow, then you would be correct. What are we trying to copy? For shadowing, you will look for a video or a piece of audio and try to listen to it, preferably with captions or subtitles or a transcript first. You want to listen to it for a few times, get to know the stressing of the words, the pausing between sentences, the grammar and sentence structure. You don't need to understand it thoroughly, just know how the speaker speaks at the speed, at the tones, the different pressures, etc., etc. Once you think you're ready, turn on captions or print out your transcript, play the video or audio again, and try to read along to the speaker as closely as you can. Mimic every single detail. How fast they speak, where they pause, where they stress their words, where they have different fillers. Copy as much as you can. Try to aim for 100%. And once you master that, turn off your captions, turn off subtitles, put away your transcript, and do it again. Play the video, play the audio, shadow the speaker without looking at anything. At this point, once you succeed this, you will basically become that person. By doing so, this process is very difficult, mind you, but by doing so, you will take a giant leap forward in your pronunciation, your understanding of sentence structure and grammar, the forms of a word, and also how to stress words and how to pause between sentences. Now, when I say understand, I don't mean you will memorize every use for it, but you will understand it in the context of what the speaker is using it for. So, for example, if you're shadowing one of my videos that is talking about grammar, throughout the shadowing of this video, you will probably subconsciously understand a lot regarding grammar because you're reading something about grammar yourself. You will also follow along to my pauses between sentences and my uses of the different forms of a word. So if there's a certain area of the English language you want to learn, make sure to go to Boss Huang Vlogs, look for a video on that topic, and try to shadow it. If you ever come around to doing so, comment below how your shadowing went, and if you think this is too hard, also comment below, and I will make a future practice video for shadowing where I make this a ramp-up difficulty where we begin with subtitles, with transcripts, and pauses between every sentence, then no pauses, but with captions and subtitles. Lastly, without captions, without subtitles, without pauses. This will rank up the difficulty starting at easy so that you don't overwhelm yourself with too much at the same time. Now, another method as opposed to shadowing, if you think that shadowing is too difficult for you or you don't like reading at the same time as someone else, you can try to record yourself. To record yourself, the method that I used is to listen to this speaker talking, then try to repeat, similar to shadowing, repeat as much as I can, as many of the details as I can, but for this step, I will record myself speaking. Afterwards, I will play both versions for myself to listen where the differences are. The differences is that for shadowing, you will get immediate feedback on whether or not you're shadowing correctly, because if you're shadowing at the wrong pace or the wrong pronunciation, you will immediately hear it. But for recording, you can hear yourself afterwards as many times as you like. If you want to take this a step further, you can use a camera to record your mouth. This will help you understand your mouth, the shapes of your mouth, and how you pronounce the words as opposed to the speaker that you are trying to copy. So by recording yourself and playing it back afterwards, not only are you able to compare yourself with the speaker, you're also able to make sure that your mouthing is correct, your speed is correct, and your intonation can also be double-checked by watching this video or this audio of yourself. Aside from copying a speaker, you can also do this practice before a report, a presentation, or something important. For example, if you're giving a pitch and you want to practice your speaking, you can record yourself speaking the pitch, or even if you want to practice something larger like body movements and also your content of your presentation, you can record the entire stage so that not only can you see your pronunciation, you can also make sure that you don't have excessive body movements or excessive fidgeting, etc., etc. So these are the two tips I have for making sure that you have good pronunciation and different aspects of spoken English. This is especially helpful if you don't have friends around that can help you practice speaking English. So those are the 7 tips for today to help you improve your English speaking. I hope that helps you in your English learning journey. If you have a favorite tip, please comment below. If you have a next subject you want to learn, comment below. If you did any of the tips and you found it helpful, comment below. I hope to see you guys in the next video, and if you enjoyed this one, please remember to subscribe, turn on notifications, like the video, and share my channel. I will see you guys next time on English with Boss Huang Vlogs. Bye-bye.